Bitcoin caught fire. You remember what happened? Like it went to all-time high. So we bought $650 million of Bitcoin around 19,000 or 20,000. I don't remember exactly, but people said, you're crazy. You're buying at the all-time high. Well, okay, let me just say for the record, guys, I'm going to be buying at the all-time high forever. I think the people that have lived in the crypto industry for the last decade, they lived through a very difficult time, and I respect that, And their lessons are their lessons, and you should respect them for what they learned. But just because you lived through the first decade of the industry doesn't mean that you can draw upon solely your experiences and your data sets to extrapolate the second decade of the industry, right? You fought wars with bows and arrows and spears your entire life, and I show up with a bunch of dudes with machine guns, and then you want to call the battle strategy. And the point is, you're fighting the last war, and there are elements of what you learned in the past decade that are relevant. But let's just deal with the elephant in the room here, which is, if you look at Bitcoin and you look at all the other cryptos, there's a crypto economy. It's got its own future. It's very complicated and murky. We could talk about it for 3 hours. There's competitive issues, security issues, regulatory issues, nation state issues, complicated. Then there's Bitcoin, a digital property on a dominant network. It doesn't need any of the other crypto whatever to be successful. For Bitcoin to be successful, there are any of 10,000 entities. The Sovereign Wealth Fund of Abu Dhabi, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, every public investor, every macro investor, every large company on earth, any municipality, any state, any government, there's 10, 20,000 people, they go to sleep tonight, they could wake up tomorrow morning and they could say, I think Bitcoin looks like crypto gold. I'm going to go ahead and put 3% of my portfolio in it. That means I'm going to buy $4 billion of it. I'm going to buy $4 or $5 billion of it. It's nothing to me. It's nothing. It's like, figure out how important 2% of your money is. It's like that deal. It's like, I noticed it. I'm going to put 2-3% of my assets into it. We'll see where it goes. LFG. And they put the news release out on the wire, and Bitcoin doubles or triples. And then, if the Sovereign Wealth Fund of some Middle Eastern state did it, if they bought $5 billion, these people have $500 billion. Like the intelligent sovereign wealth funds, they're not, the central banks of smart countries, they're not sitting on a bunch of long-dated T-bills. They're not holding a bunch of sovereign debt. They're holding Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google. It's like, it's the day that a Warren Buffett gets up and he says to some dude that works for him, I got 50 billion, figure out something to invest it in. And the dude says, we bought $10 billion worth of Apple, and then Apple triples. And Warren Buffett made more money on Apple stock, which was a delegated decision by a dude. He made more money on Apple stock than he made in his entire life, and he's acknowledged to be like maybe one of the most successful investors of the last 100 years. And yet the thing he made the most money on was like an afterthought. So back to what does this mean to Bitcoin? It's like some dude with a $400 billion balance sheet can delegate to a portfolio manager to look at this thing, and that portfolio manager can say, I'm gonna put 2% into it. And if you pick up the paper and you read that the Sovereign Wealth Fund of such and such state bought $5 billion worth of it, what happens is the next 5 countries, they think they'll put $5 billion into it. And then what happens next is somebody at Google will say, I guess we can hold $5 billion of it. And then somebody at Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley will say, I guess we probably should grab some. And then Ray Dalio with his $50 billion or $100 billion or $150 billion, okay, well, I guess instead of like 0.5%, maybe 3%. Okay, and then all of a sudden Bitcoin spends from 40,000 to 150,000. 200,000. And I guess what I'm telling you is there's 10,000 people that could make $5 billion in 30 days if they wanted to bend over and pick up the money without taking a risk.